Mystical beings have placed an immense amount of power on a planet that is coveted by many opposing forces. It's up to a ragtag team to protect one young woman who may be the key to unlocking it all. I think this sounds like the plot of The Fifth Element, but it's actually the video game-based movie Borderlands. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Borderlands. Borderlands, written by Eli Roth and Joe Crombie, directed by Eli Roth, starring Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Edgar Ramirez, Ariana Greenblatt, Florian, Munteanu, Gina, Gershon, and Jamie Lee Curtis. And for a complete cast listing, as always, you can go to the link in our show notes. It's just me today. And this is a movie that is based on a video game, very popular video game that was on, I think, cross-platform. My friends, I feel like, played it on Xbox a lot, but I believe it was cross-platform. And it is about the movie. I don't know what the game's about because I never played it. And I thought that maybe that would give me some sort of advantage walking into this, not having any kind of like predisposed commitments to any of the characters or the storylines. So the movie plot is about a young lady who is being transported who needs to be recovered by her father, and Kevin Hart is sent to do this, and then also Cate Blanchett is sent to do this. So it's kind of two bounty hunters going after the same type of bounty story, which is like a familiar plot. Immediately, as soon as this movie starts, as it's going, you see Cate Blanchett with a shock of red hair, and immediately I'm like, oh, this is The Fifth Element. They're obviously doing a Fifth Element thing here. Now, here's the thing. I've never seen that movie. Never seen The Fifth Element. I've seen clips of it. I've always seen it when it's coming on or going off, like on television back when they used to put movies on there and you just catch it before seeing something else. Never watched the whole thing. I know a bunch of people are going to be like, what? You haven't seen The Fifth Element? No, I have not seen The Fifth Element. Also, I should probably note that I'm recording this on my phone as opposed to my normal recorder. So if it sounds different, that's why. My batteries ran out. I didn't check them before I went in. So stupid me. Anyway. Haven't seen it, but I know the basic plot, and I know enough. The thing about that Fifth Element is that it's a popular enough movie that I know enough of the basic plot to know that this film seems to steal almost probably its entire plot from The Fifth Element, which I will probably watch and do another episode of Leaving the Theater about The Fifth Element because, I'm watching it. I'm just like, this is just very familiar. Now, the thing is, The Fifth Element came out in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And so since then, there's been plenty of other movies where it's like, oh, no, we got to go get the thing that unlocks the thing. And, that's not like an original plot by any means, but doing it in space it feels like is even less original than most other ways that I've seen this done, we'll say. They gotta go get the ancient thing to open the other thing, and then the thing floats, and like that's what the plot of this entire movie is. Now, I know watching it, there was definitely a bunch of Easter eggs and stuff for people who have played the video game that were probably watching this and being like, oh, this is great. I'm having a great time. They're referencing all of these things that I know and that I love. But as somebody just watching the movie, not really enjoying any of that. It's very much a video game movie through and through, meaning let's plop you into the world of the video game and hope that you enjoy the narrative, the very simple narrative that we've created. Now, Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart are in it, and so is Jack Black voicing a robot. Jack Black voicing the robot is stealing the show. When he shows up, the movie gets better. it gets much better. So much so that I'm like, there's a better movie in here starring Jack Black as this robot. And it kind of reminds me of how in Jumanji, him interacting with Kevin Hart and The Rock created more opportunities for the movie to be funny, even though The Rock and Kevin Hart have their own chemistry that also makes it funny. So adding this extra layer made it better. And that's kind of what I thought he did to this as well. To go back to the Fifth Element thing, I think something else I should point out is that this movie is so much like the Fifth Element that, and maybe one of you gamers listening to this can clue me in on this, I'm wondering if the game is modeled after the Fifth Element, and that's why this movie feels like the same thing. And again, I haven't seen the Fifth Element. I just know enough about it to know y'all stole some, there's some aesthetic things being stole here, and definitely some plot things being stolen here. So yeah, I mean, I'm watching it. It's not an easy movie to watch. It's like, meaning that like, it's not enough fun for me to just turn my brain off and enjoy it. And it just doesn't have enough depth or any of that to like draw me in. So it just kind of ends up just kind of being a movie, you know? And Jack Black is funny enough in it that I'm enjoying those parts. You know, Kevin Hart is, again, I think he's closer and closer to distancing himself from being more of the funny person that we know and trying to try out these new roles. I mean, he had this movie that was on Netflix where he's like a heist master, which I did not believe, but he wants me to believe, which is frustrating. And this is another one where he's like a really good fighter, a very good, you know, a guy that could get in there and he's a good soldier, he's capable, that type of thing, but also like kind of cracking some jokes. But he's like sharing that with Cate Blanchett, who is doing a better job of it, but also playing kind of like the smarmy character that would have been like Brad Pitt or Channing Tatum or somebody in another universe. So kind of watching them like together kind of feel like in some ways that they were like clashing against each other, which is, I mean, I don't know. It just made for kind of like a messy movie at times. It was not quite, all of that being said, it was not quite a 2-star movie because I was out and I'm like, you know, I'm inside. I'm inside and there's air conditioning and it's fine, but it's August. So I really just don't expect movies in August to be that good. I don't know why you're playing your music that loud back there. Like, there's no need for that. Turn it down. Anyway, it was fine. So with that being said, I think it's right down the middle. Funnily, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Deadpool and Wolverine. And I gave Deadpool and Wolverine 2.5 stars, especially because of the dumb stuff they were doing in that movie. This one I give 3, right down the middle. It's a movie, probably would be more strong, and maybe it's more of a 2.99 if I'm being honest. It's a 2.99 because I definitely don't want to see this again. And had this been on streaming, I probably would have been like, hey, this is a 3.25 because I would have been sitting at home, like, you know, making some nachos and eating them while watching this. But this one, I'm just sitting in the theater feeling like, I don't know why I'm here. And that's not a good feeling. So 2.99 of 5 stars. Another short review today because these movies aren't very good, if we're being honest. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't spend money on this one. Jamie Lee Curtis was also in this movie. Proud of her, proud to see her and stuff. Not that great of a role. It didn't really matter that much. To be honest, I'm not. It's very forgettable. It's evaporating from my mind right now. It was evaporating from my mind as it was happening. So, yeah, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh It's Big Ron Studios. I am mixing these episodes now, it seems. And if you want to continue to support Leaving the Theater as a show, as a concept, you want to support me as a creator, the best way that you could do that is by contributing to the Patreon, becoming a Patreon member. That you can do that by going to patreon.com/leaving the theater or going to the link in our show notes. I'm trying to make plans to bolster the Patreon community and add more extras, but the truth is mostly what y'all are paying for is for the existence of the show. it is hard to make this show every week, be responsible for this, getting batteries, buying tickets sometimes, gas mileage, all that stuff. And then eventually we do want to get to a place where we're mixing the show again. Right now that's on hold because, I'm doing a fine enough job that it's still holding up the integrity of the show. But if you're listening and you're like, man, I want this show to keep going, I wanted to see it grow, we're going to keep pushing forward. I have some ideas about things that I want to do in the future, especially with the Patreon. I want to do trailer reactions, and I want to start doing reviews with my sister and my dad that would be exclusive to the Patreon. I want to bring back On the Couch exclusively as a Patreon offering. So there's a bunch of things that I want to do, but it's the more people that are members, the more it makes sense for me to be able to have the free time to do it. But even without all that, join the Patreon just to support the show because you're supporting an independent creator. I'm doing this by myself. I'm going to record this today. I'm going to mix it tomorrow. I'm going to record the intro, all that stuff. I'm going to put this together. It's just me. There's nobody I'm passing this off to anymore. So if you're listening, you're like, man, Ron, that's a lot of work. Throw some money in that Patreon. Patreon.com/leavingthetheater, or go to the link in our show notes. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at @OHitsBigRon. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oaths Big Round Studios shows by following us on Instagram at Oaths Big Round Studios and on Twitter at Oaths Big Round Stew. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening.